Alrighty, what is up, people? It is I, Kerbis136, with a patch review. Starting a little early, only 15 minutes, but it, helps. So we can do this. This is the patch we were waiting for. There's going to be more changes, I guarantee that. But this is supposed to be the generalized changes that are supposed to follow with some of the attribute changes. Some heroes have been changed, but it's actually funny enough, not much based on primary attributes, is mostly based on other things such as move speed, which has had the biggest change in Dota since as long as I can remember, probably. So, the change actually doesn't affect a large percentage of the cast, but it depends on what items you buy and exactly what their base movement speed was before. I will explain all of this after I read through the boot changes, and then I will discuss exactly how it affects. I posted some results on Discord, and I'm just going to quote some of what I already did, mathematically speaking. So let's begin. XP bonus for kill streaks reduced. Basically, just a little bit, because this is to the level or whatever. So this is going to make it so that they already reduced the gold bonus for kill streaks. It's basically making it less incentivized for you to kill a core, and then suddenly you get a ton of money and a ton of levels. So it's going to be much harder to have comeback mechanics in Dota, which I kind of like, because it's sort of frustrating to be ahead by like 5k gold, then lose the game. So boots, almost all of them were changed from 15% to 45 flat. So obviously it's going to change a lot of calculations, but I'll get to that as we get there. The phase active speed was reduced from 22% to 20%. A lot of these changes we're going to see where the percentage-based things were reduced very slightly is because if you add percentages on top of the new flat, you'll get a higher number, and they're trying to keep the general speed of heroes who just have boots to be relatively the same on most heroes, but not all. Tranquils was put to a static amount. I actually didn't do the math on Tranquils. I don't know. It was a lot of work to do because of the weird percentages, so I just don't want to do it, no offense. I'm just not going to get into that. I just did for the basic boots because, not that Tranquils isn't one of them, but, I guess that's actually pretty easy math, all things considered. I guess
I can learn to...
I'm trying to get up on business here. We just bring a calculator out here. We take the base movement speed. It used to be, you'd have 300 base movement speed on average, and you multiply by 0.26 to get what Tranquils gave you. Tranquils used to give you 78 movement speed. Now they give you 75. So Tranquils are actually better at base movement speed than they used to when active. Inactive, it isn't as relevant, to be honest with you. But so Tranquil's break-even point was probably right around 295 movement speed. I'm just taking a guess. Most of them do have an obvious break-even point. It doesn't really matter what it is for Tranquils in particular, but it's actually 290. It's less than 295. It looks like it's about 290. That's crazy. I just have a calculator open here. You guys can't see it, but that's nuts. Don't you think, Sonic? It's 290. It's 290. Okay, it's right below 290. That's so nuts to me. They changed a lot of these boots to basically be like better, even very low movement speeds, which I think is absolutely nuts. What did I do? That's not right. I keep messing up my math here. All right, yeah, right around 290 is the break-even point for Tranquils. If you had 290 movement speed before, if you have less than 290 base, Tranquil boots are actually going to... I forget which direction this is now. They give you 75. Yeah, okay, if you have more than 290, Tranquils are going to give you diminishing returns now. If you have less than 290, they give you better. So Tranquils are better for slower heroes than they used to, but that's just Tranquils. I'm not going to really get into that too much. I'm going to hopefully avoid that. Anyway, Travel's got a pretty sizable buff. I can't imagine for most heroes this is going to be less. I think Travels are going to be faster for most of the cast. I'm going to ignore that. Some of these things are really complicated as far as doing the math for like Spider Legs Force. There's so many different things I would have to calculate. I was more concerned with how all these work now. So I'm just going to go through these. So basically everything was changed to be either percentage to static or static to percentage. Basically everything that gave percentage is now static, and everything that static gives percentage. I don't know why, but that's just what they did. So all of the boots, including Spider Legs and stuff, were changed to static, and all of the items that were based on Yasha were changed to percentage. It's basically more or less the break-even is similar to the boots, so I'll get into that all at the same time. Trident was changed too. I didn't even see that. Drum of Endurance was nerfed. A lot of these have these little eyes on them. It's because part of the boots changes, so I'm going to trust the developers, and it's roughly the same. I'm not going to get into that. So now that we've done all the movement speed, like looked at them, now we'll actually talk about how that matters, because that's really what I want to get into. So basically, if you have a 300 movement speed now with the basic, just not counting using the actual phase, but just having the boots, the basic 45, 300 is the break-even point. If you have more than 300 movement speed, you are actually going to lose speed now, because the 15% would be more than the 45 you're gaining now. So someone on Caudle who has like 330 base movement is slower with Tranquils than he used to be. He lost movement speed, I checked. Because Caudle used to move with Tranquils, and he used to have, as of the new patch, I mean, like, when they changed this, there's no agility. Caudle would move with 420, no, that's not true, I'm sorry, 415. He was 415, and now new Caudle with just the Tranquils is 405. So he lost because his base movement speed is so high. And the same thing is true of most of these boots. Obviously, they're a little different because their percentages, depending which one it is, because Tranquils are different than the regular rest of them. But 300 is the break-even for the rest of them. The break-even for Tranquil, like we said, is a little bit lower. But this is going to change. Heroes who are slow are now much faster. So Crystal Maiden gets a really big benefit here. The percentage used to suck for her, but now that it's flat, she gets an advantage. While someone who's like Luna, Slark, whoever, not Slark, I'm sorry, Luna, Enchantress, Caudle, they all actually will lose some speed. So it's going to actually close that gap of the slowest and the fastest heroes, where they're all going to be a lot more like close, I guess you would say. It used to be the rich got richer because you already have a lot of base movement speed and it was percentage based, so you actually increase that gap as the game goes. But now the gap is going to be a lot more static, meaning heroes are just at their speeds, which I like a lot. As far as Manta is concerned, the Yasha based items, they're actually all faster. The break even point I wrote in the Discord, it's kind of funny to look at, is 250 move speed. There's no hero in the game who's anywhere close to that slow. So because of that, always it is faster, guaranteed. Manta style, Yasha, all that will always be faster for you now. They are very efficient. This is actually a buff to them all. I don't know if the developers realize that, but I did the math on the 8% of, you know, based on 300 base movement speed or whatever. It's whatever the number I gave before. But even at that amount, 20 is equivalent to 8% of that. And the more you have, the more the percentage matters, of course. Meaning it's going to start equaling more and more and more and more. If you have somebody who has like I don't know what just happened there. If you have somebody who has like 330 base movement speed and you multiply that by 0.08, it's adding 26.4 movement speed. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but it used to give you less, because it used to give you 20. So you're actually gaining 6.4 movement speed because of this change if you're at that 330 or something. And people regularly will have more than 330 because now that boots give you 45, people have like 345 or 350 or more. So in general, a lot of heroes are going to be faster now, and the disparity between heroes will be less. So basically, these changes are very complex. I don't think they're going to be noticed by a lot of players who don't play a lot, but by the players who are at a higher level, you're really going to notice the fact that it's harder to just be so fast you chase someone down and instantly. It's harder to be, ungodly slow compared to everybody around you. It's going to be a lot more reined in. And like I said, I didn't do some of the calculations with Woodland Striders, Forest Boots, and all that. They're jungle items, who cares? I didn't even look into travels because who cares? That's stuff you guys can do on your own or through playtesting, but at least I know that most of the boots work on that break-even of 300. Spirit Vessel, one of the biggest changes in the entire patch. I love it. How do you feel about Spirit Vessel now, Sonic? Sonic is dead. Fair enough. I think this is one of the craziest changes. It now has a negative aura that reduces health regen, heals and lifesteal by 20% in a 1200 AoE. It doesn't pierce spell immunity, which is worth noting, but Spirit Vessel didn't pierce spell immunity either. It's crazy to have an aura like this, because together they did reduce the debuff, but the debuff was 60, it's now 35. 20 plus 35 is 55, so it's a little bit less effective on that single target. 5% you lose, but you don't need to cast it on everybody. Like, you could just be around. You could even be stunned. You could be like Spirit Vessel carrying Sand King, and you get stunned in the middle of the fight. You're probably not going to die right away, and everybody's still getting that debuff in case there's like heals coming in, like a mech or something, or like you're near the Alchemist or you're near Lifestealer. They still get that negative even though you're stunned. You don't have to cast it on them. When you do cast it on them, it's almost as good as it was before. It no longer provides a Windlace, no longer requires Windlace, no longer provides movement speed, which is sad. It really sucks to not have movement speed on Spirit Vessel. And they increased the cost to balance out the Windlace, so it's the same price. So that is a nerf to that part. You're a little slower when you have Spirit Vessel. But it's fine. It's worth it probably for this aura. It's going to be a very different way to play, I think. I like it. Basilius and Headdress are more expensive, as is Soul Ring. These are some of the early laning items, and I like to see them get increased. Headdress is untenable on a core now. If you see a core buying a headdress, I think it's too expensive for what it does. The support has to be the one to buy it. I just can't. I can't really understand why this would be bought otherwise. It's too much. Vlad's lifesteal was reduced from 25% to 20%. It's garbage. I hate that. Recipe cost was increased by 50. I can't even imagine what heroes I would buy this on. Only like a 4th slot is trying to help the team, like a Vengeful 4 or something. It's too expensive and it doesn't do enough. I'd rather have any of the other aura items, to be honest with you. Especially because Vlad's builds out of Basilius, right? Hold on. Vlad's builds out of Basilius. Just Basilius, right? Yeah. Which went up. So it actually went up in cost for 50 plus 25. So it's actually 75 more expensive because the Basilius is part of it. Makes it very painful. Mech is 50 more. Pipes 200 more. They've been increasing Pipes price ever so slightly all the time. It's because Pipe is one of the best items in the game as far as like carrying on their teams, so it's very important. Lotus's mana cost was increased again. This is like the, I don't even know, like 5th time. It's because it's such a good active, so I think they decided that it has to have some sort of negative to balance it out. It gives you so much base mana and mana regen anyway, so it's kind of okay. I don't think it's going to be a big problem, but a lot of mana-intensive heroes are going to have a hard time carrying a Lotus and using it like often. So it's going to require a little bit of like care when you use it because the expense is going to be a lot. So you can't just spam it. A lot of people spam it. It's going to cost you. Silver Edge no longer reduces regen. It was a dumb ability to add Silver Edge. I think they realized that and they just said, alright, screw it. Scotty reduces all regen, heals, and lifesteal by 35%. This is the kind of buff that Scotty needed to be a little bit more in the meta. You do see Scotty on some heroes. It's a good counter as well. But realistically speaking, Scotty didn't have enough going for it to compare with some of the top-end items depending on the hero you're playing. But now that it does this, it's actually kind of a counter to Satanic, as is the Spirit Vessel change. It's gonna be harder for those heroes to just hit you and heal off of you and stay in the game, in the fight, because now if you've hit them in that small amount of time, they're not really regening all that much. And it's also gonna be a big deal just for like basic heals too, not just like the big heals, but like even small heals like a mech or something. It's hard for their team to save them, so I like this a lot. Nullifier debuff is no longer dispellable. Nutty points it out to me. If you're a Juggernaut and you have a Nullifier, not that you need to have a Nullifier, but if you do have a Nullifier, you can nullify the support before he ghosts, or he actually said Yules, but I assume it's the same for Ghost, or Yules. You hit them with Nullifier, then ult, and for those 5 seconds, they can't use it. If they use Yules, it'll immediately get purged because it's a consistent debuff and it doesn't get removed by the Yules. So then you'll start hitting them again, making it a much stronger item. It actually does have a place in the meta now that it's not dispellable. You have a way to basically stop people from having buffs. Of any kind, which I think is really cool. Blade Mail Int was reduced by 2, making it just a slightly less tempting item to buy. It is bought a lot that I see, and I think it's, as he was telling me, it's just because the stats are relatively good. It's not even as much the active, just the stats are nice. To see the stats kind of, toned down is sort of nice, I suppose. Alchemist, Grievel's Greed was just nerfed in many ways. The cap's lowered, the base goal was lowered, the Bounty Rune multiplier was lowered. It just makes Alchemist a harder hero to get really far ahead in money. I'm sure this is fine. These are a lot of small changes to speed. I'm going to skip. Yeah, what's up, Substick? If you want in the party when we start, you can join in. A lot of these are just like the speeds that are changed because of boots. I'm going to skip over them. When they have this little eye, I'm going to say skip and move on. It's because I think it balances out. I will say that movement speed, percentage-based movement speed, should be slightly buffed. So any hero you don't see a change to actually got buffed. Like Slark, for example, didn't get a change to his ult. Means he's faster now. Because when you have a bigger base, the percentage matters more. So if the percentage wasn't nerfed, they're faster. So anybody you don't see here listed at all as far as movement speed being nerfed, they are faster with that percentage-based movement speed. Just for note. Track got nerfed for Bounty Hunter's self-gold. Thank goodness for that. He doesn't need that much money. Primal Split Immolation Aura was buffed a little bit. It's nice. 5, 10, 15. It's going to make the Fire Spirit a little bit scarier to be around. You're going to want to nuke him down because that damage is actually pretty notable. Broodmother is slower on webs. Slightly. Oh, that's a skip. My bad. Phantasm. 125 flat cooldown. Let's go, Chaos Knight. I love it. I love it so much. He built up to that cooldown anyway, but it's just nice to see it static, so if you do cast it before level 18. I don't know if I can. I can try Substick. This is a nice change. Divine Favor health regen was reduced. This is just... It's too much early, so I'm glad to see this. It's just harder for trying to keep his team alive. Well, the patch doesn't change too much. I don't think any hero was like broken coming out of the patch. There's bad heroes now, though, I think. Clink's Searing Arrows was buffed. They cost more, though, so you have to be a little bit careful about those early spams, but it's worth it. He has enough mana to maintain. So this is going to be a really big buff for him. Because that late game damage, too, goes up by 10, and that's pretty big when Clink is hitting you like, you know, that damage starts adding. Skip. Exorcism mana cost was increased by 50 at all levels. Good. Screw you, Death Prophet. By the way, some heroes did not get their base movement speed nerfed. If you notice, many of them didn't get base movement speed nerfed. She's one of the only ones, which means everybody is faster compared to Death Prophet. I don't know why. Just the base. Not even counting the percentage on Exorcism. Just the base. She is slower, and I think it's hilarious. It's so funny. Strength gain was reduced on Dragon Knight. That's really hard for him. He needs that damage and health pool. Elder Dragon form Scepter no longer increases attack range. This makes the Scepter way worse. It's nice to have the extra magic resistance and free pathing, which it's probably still worth it in certain cases, but the fact that he can't attack you from so far away makes it much harder, and he's easier to kite. This hurts. Drow got a base armor buff of 2. This is huge for Drow. It makes her so hard to kill in lane, as she trades so well with her Frost Arrows. That's nice. You're going to see Drow back in the meta, I think. Searing Chain's cooldown was increased. It's minor, but it's enough to make it hard for Ember to be so relevant in a fight. As the fight goes on, it's harder and harder for him to cast his abilities. Coddle had a long time coming nerf, let alone he actually got screwed because he has high base movement speed, so he's slower now. But Blind Light cooldown was increased so that it scales back to 14, and with a Wisp cooldown was increased by 10. This is just so he can't be so unreasonable. Pulse Nova damage was increased at later levels. That's fine, he needed it. Lone Druid Spirit Bearer can't attack quite as fast at 25. Thank goodness for that. It attacks too fast. Luna attacks faster. I think that's crazy. I think Luna's going to be a sleeper here. Like, this is a big thing that I don't think a lot of people are going to pay attention to. The fact that she attacks faster means as you get better attack speed, you'll notice it more and more and more. She's going to start going like ham. So this is going to be huge. Another person with a base movement speed. Skip. Arcane Orb does 1% more damage at all levels. I think OD is going to be like a big benefit here. The reason why I think this happened is because OD got the nerf from not getting Spell Amp from Intelligence. He still gets the Amp from having a bigger mana pool, but it hurt him to not have as much Spell Amp flat. So him getting this is a little love touch back to be like, okay, OD, we really do want you to do that much damage, though. Like, other people got hurt, but we'll keep you. Because of that, I think OD might be one of the better heroes to come out of this patch. If you know how to play him, I would probably do it. Early Fire Spirits got nerfed. This hurts. Phoenix needs these to harass. Supernova Scepter upgrade no longer allows you to cast Sunray, and that's because they put it into a talent instead, competing with the Icarus dive cast range. That's hard. That's a hard thing, because the Sunray is really good. It means you don't have to spend the 4,200 gold, though. I think this is a nerf. This could be a nerf in theory, but it was based on Scepter. So the fact that you can get it with a talent, not have to buy the 4,200 gold to be as relevant with Sunray, I don't know. That's a hard one. I think that this might be okay in certain circumstances when you're not going to buy it Ags anyway. Because you have a competing good talent at 20. I never took the stun anyway, so removing that stun didn't matter. So it was basically taking a blank space in his talent tree and filling it in with something that I might not need to spend 4,200 gold on. Obviously, the flip side is you want the 4,200 gold to save an ally in theory, but I think that's enough of a reason to buy it if that was something part of your team fight. So I don't know, this is fine. Decrypt cast range was reduced dramatically. Everybody's going to love this because everybody hates Pugna. Nether Ward duration was reduced dramatically at early levels. This is awesome. I know Terminal must be dancing if he reads this. This is so big. Fuck you, Pugna. Skip. Talent for Void Spirit got reduced by 5 damage. It's so minor. Who cares? Vampiric Aura damage, which is the damage he gets extra from his aura, got reduced by 2 at all levels. It's so minor, but I think the reason why is it's not only just 2. He also gets the crit that he could potentially crit off that damage, and so it's just a way that's going to hurt him in lane. He can't just level this up and get easy last hits and get easy trades and everything. He can't win in all ways, basically. It's going to hurt Wraith King a lot. Most of these changes, these are more changes, and they're nerfs to some people, buffs to others. I think that's the biggest change, honestly, is the movement speed. But other than that, huge buff to Spirit Vessel, nerfs to all of these items, basically, minus Nullifier. Nullifier's got the one that got the love. Oh, Scotty too, I'm sorry. Scotty, Nullifier, and Spirit Vessel get the love out of all these items. Everything else got a nerf, which was needed. The only hero that I think got better really is Clinks. Anybody else who got a buff, it's so minor. Oh, that's not true. Drow. Drow and Clinks. So Drow and Clinks should really be the heroes that you're going to see. And Luna. I forgot about Luna. The heroes you're going to see be a little bit more relevant. I don't know if any of these changes are going to change the meta dramatically. I think they're going to be slight. But I also expect that another patch is going to come out soon. I think 7.26a is just like they're trying to roll it out slowly to see how things are taken. So as the movement speed comes out, we're going to see that some people are going to be complaining about some heroes being too fast. Like, I think supports are going to love this because now that you can have, you know, a faster CM in comparison to the rest of the cast, she's going to actually be able to get in and out of the fight, trade better in lane kind of thing once she gets her boots. So I think this is going to be a big deal. So I'm going to end the patch notes, and I'm actually going to start playing Dota because we're right around that time anyway. If anybody who's in the chat right now wants to play, just get in there. I can give you the cliff notes as we start queuing. I know some of you missed it. Or on YouTube, I appreciate you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.